Birds eat insect pests, less birds on rodent predation, see dispersal pollination. Not just scientists and scholars, 47 million people spend $9 billion on activities they think are great. Throughout the United States, 1 in 4, 3 billion birds, 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 1 in 4, 3 billion birds. Bird families where the number narrows, worship were the New World sparrows, wood warblers the study reckoned, but whose numbers fall with second. It's paint with such broad brushes, we lost blackbirds, finches, flutters, flycatchers, swifts and swallows, with many more, and many more to follow.
So, welcome everyone. Just to set the tone,
To set the tone,
that I'm
that
sorry, I hear myself in the
I hear
background.
myself in the background.
So I'm going to mute myself if I can figure out how. Okay. So just a comment that not only are what we're doing enjoyable, that we get to see this great biodiversity around us, it's also important. The world is changing, and North America, like a continent, has lost a quarter of its birds in very recent history. Where is that going? Well, we are watching the birds. We are, taking notes on what we see. We are setting up backyard bird feeders. So, we are the ones who are trying to figure out what's happening, and, hopefully some of the ones which will help solve it. But we are not alone. And so every week I start off this way, that if you enjoy getting outdoors, if you enjoy taking hikes, you've got people, all right? You're not alone. And there's all of these great organizations. So the Orange County Audubon Society has a website. And if you went to the website, you could say, oh, there's presentations like this one. There are field trips. So what I like to do is on the first Tuesday of the month, lead a hike at the Heritage Trail. On the second Sunday of the month, lead a hike at the Bashakil. This week, we're trying to expand some of our smaller sanctuaries. So if anyone's like super interested, this is kind of like more of a preliminary. It's not like, oh, look at this trail that's well kept, etc. This is more like we're establishing a trail. So, maybe not quite ready for, especially if your footing's a little uneasy, you might want to bring a walking stick. But if anyone lives near Montgomery and says, oh, I live near Montgomery and there's a little, Audubon sanctuary there, I'd love to, take strolls there. So this will be the first hike there we lead this Saturday at 9 a.m. And then that's 15 minutes away from the Shwangong grasslands. So at 12, we're going to go there, walk around, and see what we see. So the Audubon Society does trips and presentations. The Bashakil Area Association, which is where we have hikes at the Bashakil. I feel horrible. So Adrian, getting to your question, I led a hike there like 2 weeks ago. It was a great hike. We had a great hike. So I say goodbye to everyone. They drive away. And within 5 minutes, 5 bald eagles came, 2 pairs here, an immature flying around, a Cooper's hawk flies over. So, but in any case, if you like the outdoors and if you like birds, there's people who would love your company as we form like our little community. And go out. And even if you, hiking outdoors isn't your thing, write both of these organizations. They have newsletters. There's the Guardian from the Bashkir Area Association. There's the monthly Audubon Society newsletter. Keep you abreast of what birds are being seen. Welcome. Come on in, everyone. So welcome to everyone. And once again, if you like getting outdoors, there's so much support for you. This series is meant to kind of highlight the incredible diversity we have around us. And I've said this before, I don't mean to be insulting, but if you go out west, it's beautiful. And it truly is. But after a certain point, it's a little boring too. They just don't have as many species as we do here. If you go to, go to the Virgin Islands, beautiful. Once again, not as much diversity as we have here. Now, obviously, if you were to go to, the tropics, they would say the same about us. So we're not like the best of ever, but we really do live in a wonderful area. So wonderful that we are studying the diversity of birds in a series of stages, doing groups, a little at a time. So tonight is the first of the songbirds. Now, this is more than half of bird species, the small little birds um, with perching feet that make songs. So we're breaking it up into 3 weeks. Tonight is the first installment. If you had not, seen this in previous weeks, if we were to look at a family tree of birds that are alive today, the ostriches and rheas and the South American tinamous, they're the most primitive birds alive today, the least related to all of the other ones. Then the ducks and the chickens and turkeys, their group, the fowl, both waterfowl and the chicken group, they would be the next group. We were talking about turkeys and grouse last week. And then we have a bunch of aquatic bird branches splitting off. We have the raptors coming in there. And then the big group is the songbirds. They belong to a biological order called Passeriformes, and the next 3 weeks are about those. Notice then also the last group to appear. So if you were to say, how many cardinals or blue jays or goldfinches did Tyrannosaurus rex say? The answer is 0. I mean, so the branching of the bird family tree, the dinosaurs went extinct about this level. So everything that happened up here, no dinosaur ever saw a hawk or an eagle. No dinosaur ever saw a woodpecker, and certainly no dinosaur ever saw a songbird. These are more recent things. Now, I like the family tree that I put up because we can start, but you might say, no, I want more of a family tree. And this is where we start getting into trouble, because now with genetic analysis, we can say, ooh, let's start taking DNA and comparing all of the families here. And someone might do this and publish their results. But then a little bit later, someone else takes different genes or includes this other group that wasn't included on the first one, and then they do studies, and that comes up with a slightly different family tree. And then so the latest one kind of juggles, this group around here, and so we'll get to the big one here. So, we'll juggle this branch, and then a new publication comes out, so we juggle this branch over here. This isn't a tonight thing, but just as an example, I love scarlet tanagers. Unfortunately, they're not tanagers. They're cardinals. That's one of the things that would come up here, that when you look at the DNA of a scarlet tanager, it is close to the DNA of what we call the tanagers, but not quite. It's actually more in the cardinal group. And there are some groups which we call cardinals, which are actually tanagers. And Darwin's finches are tanagers. And so as we continue to study birds, talking about the family tree, like all science, it's a work in progress, and we juggle stuff, right? So if we were to then start off once again, the songbirds. In general, they got small because most of the birds we've talked about prior to this, they're bigger. I mean, like turkeys, ducks, they're on average bigger. The herons, they're on average bigger. So this reduction of bird size, this came late in bird history. All of the early birds in general were bigger than this group. One of the things that they really got good at was a perching foot, so that you could hold onto a branch. Also, they modified the base of their respiratory tree near the trachea in a muscular area called the syrinx. Now, this is the defining feature of the birds, the songbirds. And when I dissected one, I'm like, all right, let's find this syrinx, like this defining feature. And it kind of just looks like any old other trachea. So it's not, visually all that impressive. But nevertheless, it makes sound. All right. If you've ever heard a great blue heron make its call, it's not beautiful. It's just like this screeching, squawking type of thing. And so the melodious ability of birds to make songs, once again, comes late in their family tree in the songbirds. So the songbirds appear. They probably appeared on the southern continents, which is where this group does best. So of the songbirds, which is a biological order, we split them into 2 suborders right off the get-go. One of the suborders are the flycatchers. Now, flycatchers in our area, I'll talk about. But in South America, where I lived for a little bit, they had long tails. This one looks cute. But then you got the bright reds, the bright yellows. The southern continents, especially South America, this is where flycatchers really diversified. There's a bunch of other members of this group which aren't quite as colorful. Flycatchers are where we start as being a suborder of the songbirds, but not closely related to all of the ones which we're going to talk about for the next 2 weeks. Here is a good one to start off with, the eastern kingbird in our area, all right? Because this one, as much as any of them, helps to give this group their nicknames, the tyrant flycatchers. So not only are they called flycatchers, but tyrant flycatchers. Why? Because if you fly into their territory, they will come after you. All right. They will mob you, they will peck you, they will dive bomb you, even if you're bigger and meaner than they are. They go after bald eagles, they go after great blue herons. A number of birds do. All right. But these are famous for it, so much so that their name, their nickname, the tyrant flycatchers, has that. Now, they don't act like that in winter. Like when they go to their breeding grounds, they're not just naturally mean. Like they'll be happy to leave the big, scary birds of prey alone. It's when they're breeding, um, and just it makes sense. If you're breeding in an open area, especially if it's like a marsh, like if you're in a bunch of cattails, and someone like me is coming at you, I can't see your nest, you're in the cattails. But if someone's flying over, oh, it's easy to spot, like a nest full of eggs. And so it would be easy for anything flying overhead to prey on. I'm sorry, I'm just going to mute. I was getting some little background here. To prey on your nest, your offspring. And so it's in everyone's advantage that if one person sees a bald eagle, that all of the birds say, we're going after you, and they mob the bald eagle and chase it out of their territory. Or the Cooper's hawk. Cooper's hawk like to feed on birds. So flycatchers are neat, but South America's are colorful and some have really long tail feathers. Ours not quite as much, a little driver, but still nevertheless, this is the eastern kingbird, one of them. Here is the great crested flycatcher in our area. Now, when you see it, it's your first reaction is show me your crest, and then we remember, well, there's muscles attached to feathers. Birds are capable of raising and lowering their crest. So like a cardinal, a blue jay, their crest sometimes stands higher than it does. And this bird can make the feathers on the top of its head stand up and have a crest, but doesn't have to if it doesn't feel like it. It might do that if alarmed or trying to defend a territory. But we don't always see it raise the feathers on the top of its head. Most of these videos are very local. So most of I just remember when I took them, a lot of the kingbird image was from the Bashkill, 20 minutes away. Most of this great crested flycatcher stuff is from the Goshen Audubon sanctuary. And so, hopefully, if you like seeing these birds, get in mind, oh, if I went out and was hiking more, like, in our area, like I could get to see some of these. Phoebes always sound a little angry to me. Their song is like, Phoebe, Phoebe, but it's often taken as a harbinger of spring. Because these birds eat bugs. I mean, the name flycatcher means flycatcher, and they'll sit on a branch in the open and look for flying insects. A lot of birds are really good at like going after the tiny ones, like swallows, etc. These guys would be more dragonflies and more the larger ones to see. And so they want to come back in spring because if they're going to feed primarily on insects, early March, insects, aren't quite out yet. So a lot of people say like, oh, I feel like it's spring now. I've seen my first Phoebe of the year. Now, because I lead hikes and I do a newsletter, I have to get the identification right, or I want to, like this is this species or this is this species. So a lot of what I'm going to say in the next, let's say 4.5 minutes. If you're a beginner birder, maybe what I'm about to say doesn't interest you quite as much. But expert birders, like if you want to know what species is this, these flycatchers in our area, there are a lot that look similar. One of the key ways would be sound. And so it's not just a bird watcher showing off like, oh, I know this bird by sound. A lot of times, which one is it? And I haven't gotten to the bad ones yet. Which one is it? Even the experts are like, did you hear its call? Because if you didn't, I don't know. Like maybe where it lived, I could make a guess, but some of these, they just look that similar. That's important. The phoebes often have more of a blockish head. They're a little bit bigger than the ones coming up next. They often have a yellower, a yellow twinge to them. So among our flycatchers, phoebes are in uh, the group. Okay, I was in the Everglades this past March, and here's Phoebe's. And I just put that here because the Phoebe's, they're not in Orange County in, mid-March. They're coming, but they're not here yet. And if you ask, where are they? They're down south where there are bugs. So, Florida has bugs in March. Orange County doesn't. So they'll stay there. And then who knows, this might have been a Phoebe that was in your backyard, but it was in the Everglades until it, came time for spring, and then it came farther north. And just that's something I always struggle to remember. A lot of these birds are international travelers. They spend their year on two different continents. So, a lot of our summer birds, they're in Colombia right now. They're in the Dominican Republic right now. Or the ones that pass through in early spring, and they're going up to Hudson Bay, or the tundra. So a lot of these birds, international travelers, and so we only get to see a lot of them during part of their year. There is another species that looks like the phoebe called the peewee. It's a little smaller. Its song has a cadence like peewee, peewee, and so that's how it gets its name. If you are a birder who's now like, I want to know which species it is, you're doing things like, ooh, do I see wing bars? How bright are the wing bars? Do I see a ring around the eye? Is it bobbing its tail? Things like that. Because, some birds, like a cardinal, is easy to recognize. But these flycatchers, once again, are not the South American flycatchers, very distinctive. There's a lot of, there's overlap. I got really good pictures of some of the next ones in spring of this year. So this is a willow flycatcher. And I can say that because it was spring, so it was making its call. And if you don't recognize its call, well, that's definitely when you take out your phone and you do your Merlin app and say like, oh, Merlin's telling me this is a willow flycatcher, not one of the other ones. Because that looks a whole lot like the one that we just saw. And it looks like a whole lot like the ones that we're just about to see. So if you're like a great birder, there are days where, like, especially if it's not like the perfect image of a bird, you're like, it's one of these five. In fact, there are five of these which are classified in the same genus, the Empidonax genus. And that's just what a lot of people will say. I saw one of the Empidonax group. Like everyone else is like, I saw this duck. No, I saw this duck. I know which duck I saw. Whereas here, it's one of these five. All right. So there is a bunch. Now, their calls are important for me. Here's another one. The least flycatcher would be another one in that group. This is from the Bashakill. But imagine how important it is to them, because they're trying to figure out who they want to have sex with in the spring. And there's a whole bunch of things that look like them that they shouldn't have sex with. So once again, their calls become very important. All right, because the females are listening and they're like, that's not my male. May look like me, but that's not my male. That one looks like me, but that's not my male. That's the one I'm looking for. So that's one of the reasons for the calls. These are species, and if they, try to reproduce with another species, potentially waste their reproductive efforts. Okay, so let's shift. And all of these could have longer, conversations. But if you wanted to, get our monthly newsletter from Audubon, we'll go into more details about this. We'll just try to give an overview of all of these groups. Next, the swallows. You may know swallows, as I do, because they like to nest in cavities mostly. All right. And so you may notice that, here's something I put up for ducks. Here's a bluebird house. Wait, it's not bluebirds living in the bluebird house. It's swallows. Some birds, they nest in holes. All right. And so if you have, boxes out, you may be very familiar with these because you get to watch them all summer as they raise their young. So swallows in general nest in holes. But in nature, a lot of these holes are cracks in dead trees, as you can see here. Or if you happen to live by a river, there are riverbanks, all right, where you're going to maybe make holes in the sand here, and that's your hole. All right. The advantage is obviously if you're in some sort of a hole, less open to nest predators than you would otherwise be. So swallows nest in cavities. That may be where you see them. And let's start off with the most common ones in our area, tree swallows. Tree swallows, we want to say, ah, beautiful, like slate gray, shiny back, bright white underside, just, a beautiful bird. You may not get to see the colors unless, the sun is shining bright. It might look a little grayer. Uh, Also, just sometimes teenagers look different from the adults. All right. And so when birds are young, they might take a while to get that bright, shiny blue to them. And so you might say, oh, I see a bird that looks grayer. Does it look, is it another species? It might just be a younger one of the swallows here. You can sometimes see them in great numbers, as you see them here. And they typically fly in open spaces, fly over the surface of the water, where they are looking for flying insects. If you don't like flying insects, like the ones that bite you, these swallows can eat close to their body weight a day. All right. So if you see all of these swallows in an area, just think of how many more insects would be around to plague you if it wasn't for them. Now, this past spring was horrible for. Oh, I'm sorry. Before we talk about the young. So we were leading a hike in Goshen, and right there, these tree swallows decided to mate. So here we have our entire group just watch them. Like they weren't even like by the edge of this table. There was a tree. So here are tree swallows mating. As you might imagine, mating in birds tends to occur rather quickly. Hummingbirds, unless you have like a camera that slows things down, you're not going to see anything. And then after that, they lay eggs, and both genders take care of the young. Now, with ducks, we had mentioned that's not the way. I mean, the males, they're gone. All right. And why the difference? Well, one is female ducks are obviously they're taking care of the ducks, and it is a challenge. But how much of a challenge? Because the young are kind of feeding themselves. It's not like I'm bringing aquatic vegetation and putting it in your mouth. It's just the young are following the female around. So the young are fairly independent. Songbirds typically are born helpless, and therefore, unless you have both genders, bringing food, you're not going to have a successful clutch that year. This year was bad because this is what they need. All right. So here in spring, they're migrating. Some of them are going up to Canada. So on a day like this, they need bugs. They need the day to be warm and sunny, at least most of the days, because they're going to have to get the bugs they need to get the energy to keep on flying. That like, if you ask me to walk to Hudson Bay, I'm not sure I could do it. Some of them are flying there, so that's a lot of energy. But then if they're going to lay eggs and raise their young, once again, have to eat a whole lot of bugs. This spring, if you remember, it like rained and was cold. We probably lost a lot of them. They probably had very few successful nestlings hatched this year. So that's one of the problems with climate change. If we're just seeing shifts in weather patterns, temperatures change. If there's so this is the Liberty Loop on the Jersey border. But you could see how many were there. Now, I'm thrilled with this next video because this was from about 3 weeks ago. Probably like 2 weeks ago. So I was at Goshen, just walk around, it was dusk, and I would see all this because they're flying south and they're thirsty. And these birds, they don't stop to drink, they drink in midair. So they'll just kind of fly over and kind of skim the water and get a drink as they go. So you can see this. And if you ask how many of them are there, well, then the answer is wait, you haven't seen anything. This is what they were doing. All right. I couldn't count them because the sky's full of birds, they're all moving. Minimum it was 1,300 was like that's the bare minimum of what it was. But they can form flocks of hundreds of thousands. And so Orange County is important, all right, because whether these are our summer birds or the birds of Maine or the birds of Canada, they have to get to Georgia or wherever they're going. And this is an important stop. All right, so our water, like it's been really dry this summer. So a wetland that's preserved is a place where they can drink so they can do the next leg of their migration, any bugs that they eat. So our habitat is not just important for the birds which live here, but also the birds that pass through here. And, you never, that's the thing with birds, you never know what you'll get to see. So once again, I was just hiking along. I didn't expect to see these guys. But just the sky was full of these tree swallows. That was wonderful. There are other kinds of swallows. Once again, tree swallows probably are most abundant, but we have barn swallows. They're a little more colorful with a little, orange on their throat and longer tail feathers. That's how you can identify those. So very similar as they skid over um, the water. And so you could, be out in a wetland and actually see, oh, okay, well, there are the tree swallows. Oh, here's the barn swallows. So I'm seeing they're a little more colorful, the longer tail feathers. But then also, there's a tree swallow. Notice that they don't always have to have the blue. This one looks like it's molting and maybe getting a little of the shiny blue coming in, but it can look grayer at first. But then these ones are a brownish gray. These are the northern ruffed-winged swallows. They sound different. All right. So if you ever see like, ooh, that doesn't look like the swallow, the bright blue, the white, that's because that's a different species. Then we have other ones. If they have a neck stripe, that's a bank swallow. So if you notice, there's a little stripe there. So we have different kinds of swallows, which we have in our area, but we must go on. So more birds. Here's another group, the thrushes. Now, at first, you might think, I don't know the thrushes very well. Like they're brown birds. They like the forest. So obviously, they can camouflage pretty well. All right. So, maybe I'm not as used to seeing these, especially, this one, the veery, doesn't have bright coloration. But then you realize, oh, wait, there's definitely some thrushes that I know. All right. So here, once again, kind of hard to see. I can hear them making their flute-like calls. They're in there somewhere. All right. But here we have like a brownish bird that's kind of hiding. All right, that might be hard to see, but okay, you heard the wood thrush song. It's flute-like. But there are two thrushes that you do know. Bluebirds are thrushes. Right? And so these we recognize. There is some gender difference where it's the males which are a brighter blue. In fact, especially at this time of the year, you might see a bird that looks like a grayish brown on the back and like a dull orange on the front, and that's a bluebird. You might say, I don't see any blue. Well, you don't have to. Once again, birds can have different colorations at different times of year. There can be gender differences. So you don't always have to see that. Once again, this was a part of previous talks where birds don't really make blue pigments. They produce red pigments. They have yellow and orange pigments. But this is the structure of the feathers and how it reflects light. Like if you grind up a red feather, the powder is red. If you grind up a yellow feather, the powder is yellow. If you grind up a blue feather, the powder is brown. All right, because it's the way that the structure of the feather has light waves bouncing off it interfere with each other that hits your eye. So it's what's called a structural pigment. Green and blue in birds is not like, if you added like a pigment molecule, you could make a red shirt. I'm going to stain the shirt. You could not make a blue shirt with anything coming out of a blue jay or a bluebird or a blue-footed booby or any, or the parrots or anything. Those are structural pigments as opposed to blue. Will they stay in our area? Yeah, some of them. So here's the tough thing. Like it's the time of the year where you might ask a question about migration. Migration isn't necessarily a yes or no thing. Yes, it migrates. No, it doesn't. A big comment is partial migration. So a bluebird in Virginia probably isn't going to migrate. It's probably going to stay in its breeding ground all year round. A Canadian bluebird definitely going to migrate. And in this area, could go either way. We will see bluebirds all winter long. Where were we? Yes. Oh, we were in the Schwangunk Ridge doing a hike yesterday, and there's bluebirds at the top of the ridge. Maybe they're migrating through, but they might stay here all winter. Now, you never know. Is this a summer bird that just loves Orange County so much it stays here? Or did our birds go to Georgia and did Canada birds go here? So you see bluebirds all year round, but you never see the same bluebirds all year round. So partial migration is a little different in that, birds, it's not a yes, I migrate, no, I don't migrate. There are other possibilities as well. Another thrush is the robin. We all know robins. One of the things I point out is robins will stay here all winter. Same thing applies as what I just said. But a lot of birds act differently in different seasons. So you may think that the robins aren't here all winter because you're used to seeing them on your lawn where they're looking for the worms. In winter, they're not on your lawn looking for the worms because your lawn is frozen or covered with snow. They're in the trees feeding on berries. All right. And so they're still here. They're just acting a little different. One of the interesting things about birds is if you look close enough, there's variation. So one of the things about robins that let them distinguish is the eye ring. If you look at the white around the eye, it's really individual. All right, so you could use, just the exact contours of that white around the eye to distinguish between different robins. And I have one here that has a lot of white. Yeah, so they vary, and somewhere in here, there's one that has even more. And here, once again, these are winter robins, right? They're not on your lawn looking at worms. They're in the bushes where the branches of the bushes help keep them warm, and they're feeding a bit more on the berries, right? So now my last robin video is, I'm impressed with robins, and I'm going to talk about them. I'm disappointed because among the thrushes, and I have one more thrush I want to show you. Among the thrushes, there are a couple which are the rare ones. All right. So just like where you're about to see, this is where you would see the rare one, but it's a robin. It's not the rare one. So like I was like, yes, I'm seeing one of the rare ones. And I'm like, no, it's a robin. So there are some birds that love high altitudes that you're not going to see most places unless you're at the top of the Adirondacks in the highest mountains there, unless if you're at the top of the mountains in New Hampshire, et cetera, like Mount Washington. So if you've ever seen, someone with a bumper sticker, like this car climbed Mount Washington, and you're like, is that really something you want to brag about? The answer, yes, it is. If you've ever been to Mount Washington, like, I don't know if I ever want to go back. It's scary. Like it is like just straight up. And you're like, I hope my car can make it. Not only because I hope my car can make it, but there's like no place to turn. It's two lanes, but I'm not quite sure it's quite two lanes. There's no guardrail, and you're going up the whole time. You're like, this is scary. And obviously, your engine's running on, it wasn't Mount Washington, it was in the Adirondacks this summer. A car caught fire while I was at the top of one of the Adirondack mountains and just closed off the thing so we couldn't get down. So it's hard for cars to make it up these mountains. Up at the top, you see all the trees? No, there are no trees. This is an alpine environment. So you get to the tree line. And so above that, so I don't know if I have it. Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. Like, once again, Mount Washington, no joke. Wind speeds were measured there at 230 miles an hour. Okay. So I went there in summer. All right. It was summer at the bottom. I'm like, okay, so here's my shirt or whatever. It was 39 degrees at the top with like 59-mile-an-hour winds. It was freezing. So birds live in alpine environments, but as I'm trying to build up, not every bird can do it. It's a bit challenging to do it. And there are thrushes where this is the place where you will see them in alpine environments. And like the gray-cheeked thrush, they're actually quite rare. Most people will never ever see them. So if you were to, so this was an immature robin, and because it looks weird, I'll tell you why it looks weird. I was like, oh, is this one of the, did I just see an amazingly rare bird? And I did not. If that doesn't look like a robin to you, once again, teenagers often look different from the adults. So, you have the nestlings, which are still in the nest, but then once they're independent, they're not quite adults yet. All right. And so they're still a little different, and they might look a little different. So this is a robin that hatched this year. All right. But it doesn't have the orange breast yet. It has these spots. It's younger, maybe not as good at defending itself or detecting predators. So it has more camouflage, which would hide it. So that's a young robin. But still, I'm still traumatized from my visit to the top of Mount Washington. So once again, kudos to the robin, all right, which lives there, with hurricane force winds or whatever. But notice we're above the tree line. And actually, so as I was going back down, approaching the tree line, this robin was the first bird that I saw. So, as far as eking out a living, there's birds adapting to all types of habitats.
You're gonna
So
take your
kudos.
glucosamine?
I could have said, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna someone. Okay. All right. So just a little more impressive. So this was this last one here is from a couple weeks ago in Audubon's Long Swamp Sanctuary. It's a hermit thrush. So hermit thrushes and wood thrushes look a lot alike. Once again, they're often hard to see because they're brownish and they live in the woods. So obviously they're going to mix in. Hermit thrushes have more orange tail. Wood thrushes more brown. Wood thrushes have brighter spots going onto their belly. Hermit thrush is not quite as bright here. They both sound very flute-like. Wood thrushes have a little more trill at the end. But once again, people get into birding at different levels. If you're a beginning birder, obviously this is one of the thrushes. Maybe a wood thrush or a hermit thrush. So then we jump. All right, we jump into the jays. Now, jays occur all around the world, lots of colors, blue jays and things like that. But jays also include crows. All right, and so crows are big for songbirds. Remember, we're in the songbirds. These are the little birds in the world. But crows and ravens are the biggest songbirds in the world. They're the exception. And this is a time of year where birds are behaving differently. So this is from Middletown. And when you look at the size of the flocks, once again, they don't do that in summer. So, birds can look different at different times of year. Birds can act differently at different times of year. And so they can form incredible flocks that they don't form at other times of year. Crows are omnivores. They'll eat close to anything. I'm sure you've seen them eating, garbage and garbage lots. If you're a bird, all right, you don't like crows and ravens. They go after eggs, they go after nestlings, they can go after frogs, they go after small vertebrates. So, they eat a whole lot of different things. So I'm just going to play this. I know people at home might not hear it. So here's the American crow and sorry. So I'm just going to play two songs. So that sounds weird. So that sounds so the the thing is, if you're going to try to learn bird songs, you're like, okay, this is what the bird songs sounds like. But then you'll look and you'll say like, oh, like there might be 2,000 variations of the craziest ones, like mockingbirds and song sparrows are famous for that. So just because you know this one song doesn't mean that the birds always have to make that song. So tufted titmice vary with their songs. This, however, this is another species, and as I say, if you were to hear their song, you would hear more of a nya-ah, nya-ah, as opposed to the caw. These fish crows used to be rare here. But the climate is changing. And as climate changes, we're seeing a whole lot of birds all the time that we only saw rarely. So fish crows would be an example. You can technically tell the difference between them. Their bill's a little different. They're a little bit smaller, but the call is the way to go. And that's the tricky thing then. If you're out in the field and you say, I saw a crow, the question is, which crow did you see? And unless you heard them, you might not ever be able to be sure of which crow you saw. All right. So there's the joke. And I'm sorry, I don't think Alicia from the Audubon board is here, but I'm just going to comment on her shirt. So two crow jokes, if you don't mind. One is my friend Alicia. She has a shirt that has two crows on it, and the shirt says attempted murder. Some of you got it. A group of crows is called a murder. So two crows would be an attempted murder. And then the second crow joke is that how do you tell the difference between a crow and a raven? And the answer is the crow is a bird with a bill, while the raven is a bill with a bird. So when you look at them, ravens just have huge bills. All right. And so not only that, they are huge. They can have a wingspan up to 4 feet. So they're songbirds. All right. 4 feet, that's like bigger than most hawks. So of the songbirds in the world, ravens are the biggest. And once again, they were not all that common in our area. I see them all the time now. So, the world is changing, climate is changing, humans are modifying habitats. So the birds that we're going to see around here more and more common. So the size helps you. The size helps you with ravens, etc. One big thing is also, if you look at something that's flying, ravens have a tail that ends in a triangle, whereas both the crows, it's squarish. All of these are things that you learn. But if you say, like, I'm seeing something that's black fly across the sky, so you're like, tail, look at the tail, and if it's a diamond, it's like, or triangular, that's a raven. If it's a square, that's one of the crows. Just with every group of birds, there's the defining feature that, like, you're not looking at everything on the bird, you're looking for that thing, and that's going to tell you this species or that species. And they're related to blue jays. All right, so the family Corvidae includes both ravens, crows, and the jays. There are diverse jays that live throughout the world. We know blue jays rather well because they stay in our area all winter. Because once again, they have diverse things in their diet, like their cousins, the crows. When you look at their crests, once again, birds have muscles there. So some blue jays, you might see the crest standing straight up, whereas other ones it's lying more flat. Look at that. You don't see the crest quite as obvious. But then, should they be alarmed, they can certainly change this. I love blue jays, but once again, they're in the crow family. They could go after baby birds. They could go after eggs. They're a bit omnivorous with their diets. And here, once again, you can see it is the structure of the feathers which is determining the pigment. And if you didn't have a sunny day, blue jays look rather gray. All right, because once again, it's the interference of the light bouncing off that gives them this blue color. But we don't have quite as many bird species with us all throughout the year, so it's nice that the blue jays will stay. Okay. Here would be one of those birds that has a gazillion types of songs. So catbirds, mockingbirds, and this bird, the thrasher, are related. Mockingbirds are famous for the diversity of calls that they have. Catbirds, not quite as good as mockingbirds, but also put them to shame. But this thing, I apologize, I know people at home can't hear my story. Ooh, no, what did I just do? Just trying to make it. Anyway, so brown thrashers have an enormous number of vocalizations that they can do. So these are relatives of catbirds and mockingbirds. All right, quite vocal. They'll just sit on a branch and just do song after song after song. Mockingbirds, we might see them all winter. Once again, this is new. All right, mockingbirds really rare to see in winter. Now you expect it. The world is changing. All right, and so if you see a gray bird with white wing bars staying in winter, notice that there are still berries on the trees. All right, these are probably not the most tasty or nutritious berries. They probably went first. So the migrating birds probably got all the grape berries on their migration route. But then there's a lot of trees that like do this cheaply. So if I'm a tree, all right, and I'm thinking, I love my kids, I want them to be successful, but not here. Like, no, not here. I don't want them to take my stuff, my water, my sunlight. Kids, go be successful over there. That's why trees say, like, I'm going to wrap my seeds, my kids, in food. All right, so that an animal will eat my children. All right, go over there and then poop them out. I mean, that's what I want. That way they'll be successful, but farther away from me. So you could see in the background that there are still berries on the trees, but then trees, some say, I'm going to go all out and I'm going to make really delicious, nutritious berries. Other ones, they said, like, I'm going to make lousy fruit. I'm not going to put any effort into this at all because I know February is coming. And while these birds are going to be really picky now and they'll go after the dogwood fruits first, there's going to come a time where there's nothing left and they have no choice but to eat my fruits. So I'm just going to bide my time. So you could see that there were still, even in February, there are still fruits to be had. All right, so here are mockingbirds. Just two thoughts on mockingbirds. one, sometimes I listen to my own videos because I'm like, I forgot this detail. This was the first state bird, but I can't remember the state. I want to say one of the Carolinas. That's what I think. But anyway, some state, not one of ours. It was the state bird. So the first one here. And also just a shout out. You never know when a group of birds is more important. So here is mockingbirds in the Galapagos Islands. All right. I'm going to show you two different kinds. They won't look all that different to you. You may not be all that impressed. Darwin, when he visited the Galapagos Islands, we know, the seeds were planted for his idea that species change over time and that one ancestral species might then evolve into two and fundamentally change biology. But we all know, there's the Darwin's finches. No, like that came later. All right. Like the finches did not inspire Darwin. It was only after he already had his idea that he went back and he didn't even have any finch specimens. He had to borrow them from someone else. And they said, ooh, I think what I just learned applies from the finches too. So if you were to ask in honesty, what species inspired Darwin to realize that speciation was occurring? Two, the Galapagos tortoises and Galapagos mockingbirds. They were the ones that really impressed Darwin. And then he realized that this was, applying to all of these other species. But once again, I wouldn't have noticed the difference between the Galapagos mockingbirds. You might not have, but once again, that incredible shift in biological thinking. It was, wow, the mockingbirds I'm seeing on this island, they're a little bit different from the mockingbirds on this island. I don't think they're separate creations. I think that they're modified versions of the same ancestors. All right, so here's a mockingbird, which we'll see all in winter. All right, so I got more mockingbirds. And then here's their cousin, the catbird, a little, mostly gray, very diverse in the sounds that they make. Somewhere in here, you'll see, if you look under the base of a mockingbird's tail, all of a sudden you see like this bright auburn patch. You're like, oh, like I just thought it was this gray bird. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, there's this big patch of auburn on silvertail. So it was just visible for a second there. Like, oh, out of all the places to put a color patch. But, once again, they're talking to each other. So here's a big auburn patch on the tail of a catbird. Okay. Here, I mentioned that robins behave different in winter, so I'm just going to skip over this. This video is probably saying much of the same thing. And we get to our next. Oh, here's the syrinx. Okay. So as we introduce a couple more birds, we have two types of nuthatches. This one has a reddish chest. That would be the red breasted nuthatch. And the one you're more likely to see has a white chest, so the white breasted nuthatch. These red breasted nuthatch we're a little more likely to see in winter. And birds like different habitats. So if you want to see different birds, go to someplace different. They like conifers. A lot of birds do. All right. So if you're in a coniferous forest, there are birds you might see that you're not going to see in a deciduous forest. So the red-breasted nuthatch. So here it is on a pine tree, where it's like at one point it eats a spider. All right. Whereas, if by your house, I'm sure it's mostly the white-breasted nuthatch you're going to see. Birders look at everything, not only color, they listen. So you see it eating a spider there. Not just do they look at the color of a bird and the shape, they listen to the sound, but they also watch the behavior. Because, for example, if you watch a bird scaling a tree, all right, woodpeckers, they can go up the tree. Nuthatches can go down. That's hard, all right, to go face down, going down a tree. Most birds can't do that. But if you ever just watch, I can't see it really clearly, but there's a bird going down a tree, that would help you. It's like, oh, nuthatch. Here's the white-breasted nuthatch, which is a little more common. I also noticed, kind of making its way down the tree as it looks for insects. There's different kinds of bark on trees. If you've got ridges in your bark, you're just inviting bugs to live there. So that's a thing for trees. And so if there are, trees with ridges in their bark, if you're a bird, if you can scale down the tree and, there's insects hiding even in winter in those crevices. Chickadees will stay with us all winter with their bright coloration, so that's neat. Here is a bird called a brown creeper. They will stay with us all winter. They're easy to miss because A, they've got the camouflage, but then they know they're good at hiding, so that they'll just hide. Or like so if they'll hear something, like they're not going to flit away. They'll just kind of freeze with the bet that you're not going to be able to distinguish between their coloration. They've got stiff tail feathers that helps them hug the edge of the tree. So like the nuthatches, there's a whole lot of bugs hiding out in the lichens and in the crevices of the bark. And if you're a nuthatch, if you're a brown creeper, you can find them. I just got better pictures of these blue-gray gnatcatchers. So I'm sorry, this video, the lighting wasn't perfect. The upcoming newsletter for the Audubon Society, I have some pictures from Goshen of a gnatcatcher there. One of the things on this bird is it's smaller than a sparrow. And so there's little things here, like not many birds are. But like if you see something like, oh, there's so many birds, which one is it? Oh, smaller than a sparrow. Now you're only looking at a couple that it could be. And you're just like, oh, does it have a long tail? Is it the blue-gray gnatcatcher, etc. Tufted titmice, we hear them in spring all the time. Unfortunately, they have a variety of vocalizations. So if you're trying to learn your bird songs, you're like, aha, that's what a tufted titmouse sounds like. And then you hear something you're different, and you're like, you pull out your phone and you look at it, and it's like, oh, that's another song of the tufted titmouse. And then you hear something completely different, and you're like, oh, that's another tufted titmouse. So, that's unfortunate. But it is worth learning because these are common birds. And so that's actually a good way to go about it. Like learn what robins sound like, even if you're not interested in finding robins, but learn what they sound like. Learn what tufted titmice sound like. Learn all the common ones, because then as you walk, you're like, oh, like I know that one, and then all of a sudden you're like, ooh, I don't know that one. So rather than try to learn all the weird ones, learn the common ones, and then like the weird songs will stick out to you. Okay, so they have a crest on them, which obviously helps as well. Okay, a couple last groups of birds. Winter's kind of sad. I can't go bird watching anymore. And then you realize, oh, wait a minute. Yes, I can. Not only are there birds to see in winter, there are birds that you will only see in winter. So if you want to see horned larks in Orange County or snow buntings, the ones which are coming up, you'd have to go out this winter because you're not going to see them any other time of year. Just like a lot of our birds flew south to like Georgia and Florida, a lot of Canada's birds flew south to here. We are Florida to Canada. All right. And so these birds, this is from the Black Dirt area around Warwick. These are horned larks. So named because they have little tufts of feathers that might stick up. So that's something like, winter, may not be as exciting because, oh, I'm not going to see my warblers. I'm not going to see this. Oh, but I'm going to be on the lookout for the rough-legged hawks, the short-eared owls. There's sparrows that I don't see in winter. There's sparrows that I only see in winter. All right, the horned larks, the snow buntings. One last thing, and I always give this spiel because I'm embarrassed it took me so long to figure this out. Like I would never go birding in winter because it's like I'm going to wait for the weather to be warm, not realizing of how many that I had missed. And also I'm like, it's cold. I don't want to go birding in the cold. But then I would go skiing because I know how to dress when I go skiing. Like if you ski, there's rules. Like you're not going in your jeans, you're not going in one layer. Like you've got your gear for skiing. So if you're going to go outside in winter, you're going to go hiking in the woods or birding, dress like you would if you were going skiing. And you're like, oh, now I'm having a wonderful time. Like I'm not freezing and like, et cetera. So just that piece of advice. This is what's called a snow bunting. Also, only in winter is the time that we will get to see this. I mentioned that there was in the song at the beginning that we're losing our birds, and so it's important that we count and we try to measure all of the changes. Audubon does that every year. They do what's called the Christmas bird count, or the CBC, where all around the world actually people go out and count the birds. If you don't mind, I'd just like to tout. Oh, you got more of these guys coming in the next one. Tout Audubon for a second. The Christmas bird count replaced something. The Christmas bird count replaced what used to be called the side hunt. it used to be very common that in late December, you and your friends would have a bet like, I'll bet I can shoot more things than you. And then you'd go out and just have a day where everyone just shoot everything you can. And at the end of the day, we bring everything that we shot, and whoever has the most wins. And there were like no rules. You could shoot bald eagles, you could shoot like anything and everything, anything went. But then it was the late 1800s, early 1900s, people started to notice, I think this is starting to take a toll on all the wildlife. So not only were laws passed shortly after that, one of the things that started that was the formation of the Audubon Society, and a couple of people, it was only a handful, I should know this, I think it was like 16 people in like 3 places that decided, instead of going out and shooting, we're going to count birds. And then now this interest in birds, and counting, etc., this replaced. So the side hunts were eliminated. Now people are still going out and counting this. And it was only about like 16 people that kind of started the shift in this. So as we go out and we have an interest, whether it be in nature, whether it be in anything, you never know that the far-reaching effects that might result from your planting seeds where they will sprout. So these were videos taken from last year's Christmas bird count, the Audubon Society. All right, I think the last 2 videos are called cuckoos. And these are new additions. I did not have pictures or videos of these last year. So here's the yellow-billed cuckoo. I'll pause here because my black-billed cuckoo is a little blurry. These are easy birds to hear, or because they sound really distinctive. But they're hard to see. I mean, most people I know haven't really gotten good looks at cuckoos. But if you know anything about your caterpillars, last year, especially going out towards Wurtzboro, et cetera, was really bad for the spongy caterpillars, the ones that used to be called the gypsy moth caterpillars. They had an outbreak. It's an invasive species, and most birds won't eat them because they've got these sharp spines, which are like toxic. It's most birds avoid the hairy, spiny caterpillars. Not many birds can eat them. Cuckoos are among the ones that can. And so after you have a big outbreak of these spongy moth caterpillars, where all of the leaves in the middle of July are gone, all right, because of the caterpillars, you can bet that the next year might be a good year to find cuckoos because that's their food source. So then they probably were successful in raising their kids, that year, et cetera. So because last year was a bad year for those caterpillars, this year was a good for cuckoos. I saw more than I ever have. So here is a yellow-billed cuckoo. Heard them at the Bashakill. This one's from the Delaware, but obviously you can get, and there it is, eating one of those hairy caterpillars. All right. So once again, most birds wouldn't do that because it would irritate their stomach lining. They really have distinctive calls. Here is, I think I was able to get a little bit of video. So jumping around. All right. So it's got a longer tail than most. Okay. So that one had the yellow bill, and then there's also a black-billed cuckoo here. So very similar, but it's got red eyes and a black bill. Okay. Their calls are very loud, so an easy way to know that it's in the area is you just take out your little phone with the Merlin app, and you like, I'm hearing some weird bird. It's like, oh, that's a cuckoo. So I've been trying to focus on Orange County, and we are in our final seconds here. But obviously, I was talking about kingbirds. There are other species in other parts of the world. So there's tropical kingbirds. I lived in Paraguay for 2 years, so one of the ones. This is not an exaggeration. I shouldn't exaggerate. It's not. So one of the most common birds in the country of Paraguay is called the common bentivo, I think is the English name for it. But in Paraguay, they call it the pitahue. And it's called, goes pitahue, pitahue. And they're everywhere. And you hear them all the time everywhere. And the belief that, not everyone believes, but almost everyone believes, is that these birds have like this supernatural ability to know when a woman is pregnant. All right. So if there's a young woman walking around and there's a bird, like it's one of the most common birds in the country, which like lands in the tree and starts making its call. They're like, shoo, shoo, get away. So all of these birds, there are species, relative to these, which live in different parts of the world. So Orange County in eastern New York is a great place to see, these thrushes and these flycatchers. But there's other great members which live elsewhere. The order Passeriformes, the songbirds. This is the biggest group of birds with more than half. So big that just, a little survey of them should be broken into parts. So this is the end of part 1. Next week, we'll go into part 2. We'll do blackbirds, we'll do finches and a bunch of those. And then for part 3, we'll leave the sparrows and the warblers. And for a lot of bird watchers, warblers are one of the favorite groups. Thank you so very much for coming. If anyone has any questions, feel free to stay around and ask. I apologize last week with the federal holiday, the Monday talk being given on Tuesday. I'm sure that threw some people off. However, I do record these, and on my YouTube channel, if anyone cares, I have a YouTube channel at Dr. Jan 41, DRJAHN 41, where I have all of these videos, but also I have a playlist called Local Birds and Their Travels, and every week I add the latest of the all right, I just said I add the latest of these every week, and I just look, oh, I didn't add last week's yet. So I lie, apparently. So I will add all of these and keep these up if you're interested. Okay, thank you so very much for coming. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Night.
Good night. So thank you. Thank you for coming.
How is Martin's thrush doing? Because we were in the Adirondacks at least 7, 8 years ago. We actually saw,
Oh, good for you.
and it was singing foggy as anything. But we still saw it. And
I-
said it was rare back then and on, going toward extinction.
So there was a national Audubon conference in July up in Montreal. So I was going there, and I thought like, oh, like let me do as much bird watching and get some of these things. But like, and I feel bad said like it was wonderful to visit or whatever. But like I'm a tourist. Like if you really want to see the rare birds, like I'm going to park the car at the bottom of the mountain. I'm going to hike all the way up. There's going to be a whole day thing,
Yeah.
and I just wasn't doing that. I'm like, oh, let me go here. Hey, great to see you. Take care. Yeah, I'm going to park here, take a couple pictures, go. And so I didn't see any of the rare ones, but I wouldn't have expected just my kind of quick
Well, that's when the
route
kids
through
were
it.
smaller
yeah,
and we walked.
We drove up, took the elevator up, and then we did the little
Walked
hike
down,
down.
Oh, okay.
And
Castle.
it, like followed
And it
us
was right
down.
there in
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, great.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll try to go back then. Okay. All right. Well, good for you. Good for you. Yeah, because most people will never see that.
And they said chances are you won't see it. And it just happened
Oh,
to be
that's
that
great.
day.
Uh-huh.
And the conditions were right. And it was
Oh, that's
close.
great. Oh, that's great.
Do you
Oh,
remember
good for you. I'm sorry?
who's that? Can you see who that is?
Yeah. So it certainly looks like a warbler.
Okay.
That eye stripe is one that I'm not as familiar with.
Yeah.
So there's the Cape Mason. Do you ever? We could just. I'll ask Merlin what it thinks.
Yeah.
Um.
My child Holly took this, and I believe you know her.
Oh.
Excuse me, them.
Oh. Okay.
Them. Holly, them.
Yeah.
They hate me because I can't get their pronouns right,
What would Merlin's? So I'm thinking either a warbler or vireo. Where was it seen? Does it
This
matter?
is in my tree outside my bird feeder.
Okay. Okay. Northern Parula. Okay.
Okay, so it's in
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
That's what she said. I didn't believe her.
Okay.
That's what
okay.
Dick said.
That's a great bird. That's a great bird.
Yeah. No, I saw you the day that you all went out to the aquarium and they couldn't find where you were. So.
Oh, okay.
But I was going to ask you about the brown creepers because I used to see brown creepers in my trees all the time. I now
Oh, okay.
haven't seen one in like 15 years now. So.
Last winter was a good winter for them. We had them at Long Swamp and in Goshen.
Where's Long Swamp?
Warwick.
In Warwick. Okay, all right. Yeah, I don't go bird hiking anymore. Like I work all the time. But I feel like now that the end is near, I have to start doing things I love now. So
Oh, good.
yeah,
Good,
but
good.
you have all your hikes on Sunday mornings, and that's when I sing in my choir. So
Okay.
yeah.
So I am trying I think is it Sunday or Saturday of this week that we're going? I think the next two that I'm doing, I think it's this Saturday.
Okay.
I am trying to Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do kayaking Sunday afternoons at
Yeah.
2:30.
Do you know anybody who wants to get rid of the kayak?
I don't
If you,
know.
if you find anyone, just tell Holly, because I have a